Australia is a very unique country. It is known for its vast landmass and low population density. Here, there are famous places like the Sydney Opera House and the Great Barrier Reef. These places attract tourists from all over the world. Tourists come to see these places. These landmarks have become the identity of Australia. But apart from these famous places, there is a vast area in Australia where very few people live. This area is known as the Australian Outback. It is called the Australian Outback. This region is famous for its unique natural beauty and vastness. This place is very beautiful, but living here is not easy. The climate and geography here are very harsh. Australia is the smallest continent in the world, but it is one of the largest countries. Its area is very vast. Imagine, you are driving for hours or days and you don't see any town. This experience is common in the Australian Outback. This is the case in most parts of Australia. The population here is very low, and people live far apart. The population density here is much lower compared to other countries. Despite its vast landmass, this country has a very low population. In some parts of the world, a single city has as many people as the entire Australia. This comparison highlights the low population of Australia. Why is such a large part of Australia empty? There are several reasons for this. The climate, geography, and history here have influenced this, like the intense sunlight here, which makes life difficult, the old settlement patterns, which are still effective today, and the unique geography here, which makes it even more special. This unique mix of Australia makes it a unique country. Living in the Australian Outback is not easy. The sun here is very intense. The temperature rises significantly, especially in summer. Water is scarce and the land is dry. This harsh climate greatly affects where people live. Imagine how difficult it would be to farm under intense sun and with little rain. The outback is mostly desert or semi-arid land. Therefore, farming and living traditionally here is difficult. The intense heat is also dangerous for health. Heat stroke and dehydration are major problems, especially for those not accustomed to this climate. That's why most of the outback is empty. To understand the population distribution in Australia, we need to look at its history. European settlers arrived here at the end of the 18th century and started their new lives. They mostly established colonies along the coast, where resources were easily accessible. The climate here was more favorable, and the land was very good for farming. Early settlers heavily depended on shipping routes for trade and communication. It was very easy to access these routes from coastal settlements. Therefore, cities like Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane developed rapidly. Europeans did not venture much into the interior parts of the continent, where conditions were very harsh. This pattern of coastal settlement had a profound impact on Australia's population distribution. Even today, most Australians prefer to live near the coast. Section 4. The isolation of an island continent. Its impact on distance and population. Australia, a vast island continent, is isolated from the rest of the world due to its unique geographical position. Australia's geographical isolation also plays an important role in shaping its population. Its coastline, and being surrounded by vast oceans, separate it from the rest of the world. Surrounded by oceans, Australia is thousands of miles away from other continents. This distance is not only physical, but also cultural and economic. Due to this isolation, immigration in its history was difficult. In ancient times, people traveled for months at sea, which was a difficult and dangerous journey. Imagine traveling by ship for weeks or months just to reach Australia. This journey was not only long, but also very challenging. This was the reality for early migrants. They left their homes to settle in an unknown and distant land. Due to such a long journey, many people did not want to come here. This distance and difficulty were major obstacles for many. Even after advancements in transportation, Australia's distance from other major population centers is a factor. Air travel has reduced the distance, but it is still a significant barrier. Air travel is expensive, and the time difference can be a problem for business and communication. Jet lag and the fatigue of long flights are also major challenges. Due to this isolation, population growth here is less compared to countries in more accessible locations. Australia's population density is lower compared to other countries, making it a unique and distinct place. Section 5. Coastal havens. The allure of cities and the challenges of the interior. Coastal havens. The allure of cities and the challenges of the interior. Today, Australia's coastal cities are very active. There are job opportunities, cultural attractions, and a good lifestyle here. In cities like Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane, people enjoy the beaches, participate in festivals, and relish the vibrant nightlife. As a result, people from rural areas and other countries come here, leading to a continuous increase in the population of these cities. People are attracted to these cities in search of a better life. This increases the population along the coast. High-rise apartments and crowded beaches have become the hallmark here. In contrast, the interior of the country, where there is more natural beauty, has a different situation. The desert landscapes and scenic views here are very attractive, but living here is not easy. There are challenges in attracting and maintaining the population. Due to lack of infrastructure, limited job prospects, and harsh climate, living here is difficult compared to coastal living. The small towns and isolated houses here lack basic amenities. And due to the harsh climate, living here is difficult compared to coastal living. The communities here struggle in harsh conditions. Developing the interior is a challenge. Executing construction projects here is very difficult. Due to long distances and harsh conditions, infrastructure projects are expensive and difficult to maintain. Working on long highways and in remote areas is very challenging, and maintaining them is difficult. Providing basic services like healthcare, education, and transportation to remote communities is difficult. The people here struggle even for basic services. And providing basic services like transportation is difficult. Maintaining the hospitals, schools, and transportation systems here is very challenging. Section 6. Ancient Guardians, Indigenous Australians and their connection to the land. Indigenous Australians and their connection to the land. It's important to talk about Indigenous Australians who have been living on this land for thousands of years. It's important to talk about Indigenous Australians who have been living on this land for thousands of years. Their deep connection to the land and their ability to adapt to challenges is remarkable. Their deep connection to the land and their ability to adapt to challenges is remarkable. Indigenous Australians have a profound understanding of the Outback's ecosystems. Indigenous Australians have a profound understanding of the Outback's ecosystems. They have learned to live sustainably in harmony with the land for generations. They have learned to live sustainably in harmony with the land for generations. Their traditional knowledge is very valuable for conservation efforts. Their traditional knowledge is very valuable for conservation efforts. However, the arrival of Europeans had a devastating impact on Indigenous populations. Their land was taken and their culture was damaged. Today, efforts are being made to address the injustices faced by Indigenous Australians. Section 7. A delicate balance. Conservation, development, and the future of Australia's empty spaces. Australia's vast empty spaces are not just geographical features. They are important ecosystems where unique plants and animals are found. Due to the lack of human development in these areas, their natural beauty and biodiversity have been preserved. There are many species in Australia that are not found anywhere else in the world. These empty spaces are important habitats for these creatures. Conservation efforts are ongoing to protect these fragile environments from human activity. However, balancing conservation with the demands of a growing population is a complex issue. It is essential to find sustainable solutions that protect both the environment and the economic well-being of Australians.